I'm feeling good. In a good place at the moment. Everything's going good at football, so the morale's really good in the camp. So everything's going brilliant. It's been extremely difficult. Obviously, it's been really hard for everyone at the moment, but I consider myself quite lucky to be still in a job and still doing something that I love every single day, which definitely helps. But the most difficult part is being away from family. They haven't been able to come up and visit. It's just one of those things, being a professional footballer, that you got to go through sometimes. Yeah, when I was younger, it's I don't really like want to talk about who it was and stuff, but it was something that as a kid I remember. I think it was one of my dad's friends, and I remember him coming home from work, and he was telling us, and I was young and didn't really understand, and I just couldn't imagine how difficult it was for their family at that moment, and it was really weird because he seemed like he was a guy who was full of confidence and stuff like that. So it was very tough, and I can't imagine what their family were going through at that time. I think probably the anniversary of Gary Speed's death. That was obviously a massive moment for anyone who's from Wales, and obviously with all the fans that have supported him. And it's just one of those moments you remember where you were when you heard about that. And that's probably the last time. It's not a topic that gets brought up too often, but anyone who's going through that, I can imagine it being a really difficult time for them. Definitely, I think at the end of the day, you spend a lot of time with your teammates, and they become friends. And especially when you're away from home, you really count on those relationships in your changing room. And when things aren't going right for you, it is not always nice to have someone to speak to. As a footballer, there's so many downs in the game, and this year's been pretty lucky because we've been winning a lot of games. But when performances aren't good, and you work all week for that result on the weekend, and when it doesn't come your way, you can be really down for a few days, and then you get back into training, and it's about having those conversations with your teammates, and pushing, and keep going. It's quite, I can imagine it. Well, it's quite mad, really. Obviously, like I just said, you work all week for that result on the weekend, and when you don't get it, it is hard to take, and you go home on a Saturday night and you haven't had the result you wanted, and you start blaming yourself for everything. So it can be really difficult. And in football, there's a lot more downs than ups, but I think it's important for every footballer to try and strive to really enjoy those ups, because there is so many downs. Yeah, I can imagine it being difficult. They work all week, and the best part of their weekend is going to watch their football club. So if the result doesn't go their way, they've got to go to work Monday, and they get a bit of stick off their friends and stuff like that. And I can imagine it being really difficult. We've got almost like when we get a bad result on a Saturday, we're back into work Monday, and we're trying to make that result right. And they haven't really got anything. They can't really do anything to help us. So I can imagine it being very difficult. I think it's all about opening up, and speaking to someone. It doesn't have to be a friend. You can ring a phone line, or anything, and just literally just reach out and speak to people. I know it's the hardest thing to do in the world, but sometimes making that first phone call is really valuable. And if that can help, it'll be fantastic for that individual. Together we can save lives. So let's talk suicide.